Welcome back, baseball fans. The 1974-77 off-season look. Tonight we're continuing our series looking at carry-on players. 12 players who are carrying on from one year to the next of our 32 teams. They're going to have a card in either 74, 5, or 6. And tonight we're just going to look and see if we can find a better card for them in one of the other years. It's an option we can do in the draft instead of just sticking with the card they presently have. So we've gone through half the league already. We're going to take another quarter of the league tonight. Alphabetically, we're in the L's now. We finished with the Dodgers a week ago. So tonight we're going to start with Las Vegas. Always fun and most important to look at the carry-on process for expansion teams because they otherwise don't have a farm system, and sometimes they just have to be more alert and more aggressive into always maximizing cards of the players they end up getting, which is often better than finding the newer players that are added to the roster, because frankly, the newer players added to the roster are sometimes not as good as the undrafted free agents that would replace a roster spot when you vacate and take a card and improve it in a different year. So it's really critical for these teams to find, improve the 12. They are trying to improve the 12 more than the traditional Major League teams are. And the good news for Vegas is there is opportunities here. Beginning with Juan Benitez. He's a 3 E10 center fielder with a 74 card. Again, for the 12 players, they're in 3 groups: the 74s, the 75s, and the 76s. So this column we would highlight if we think 74 is better. This column's 5, 76, and 77. That's why you look at this. We think Benitez has better years in 75 and 77 than 74. And the way we determine that is he goes to a 291 average and a 760 OPS. That's almost 100 points better. And in 77, it's about the same, but there's 26 stolen bases involved. So you get a little bit of both worlds there. From where he presently is, you get better offense in 75, that and better base stealing, and possibly even better defense as well. Because normally Benitez is a pretty good outfielder. He's a 3, which is okay, but he's known to be a 2. I think he was a 1 once. So that's an option in 2 of the years, 75 or 77. Then we have Gray Gross, and this is an interesting story for him. We have his 74 card, and he's an everyday player back then. Has a heck of a year. Actually, we got his 75, do we not? No, 74. He's a 314 hitter and Rookie of the Year second on the list, but no home runs. With Houston, a 4.7 WAR. But then shortly thereafter, they start realizing they don't want him to play every day. Houston, the Cubs, the Phillies. He becomes a pinch hitter. But there's one outlier season here in home runs. 1977, he has 5 home runs for a guy who, for his career, had, is that 7? Yeah, 7 for the whole career. 46 triples, though. He hits 322 at 857 OPS, a 460 slugging. He's over 460 is something not to sneeze at. His defense is probably not going to be as... He's a 2E1 in 74. But still, the 857 OPS would be something to go out and get for this team, as they've gone the defensive route previously, and it hasn't worked out very well. So now, why not get some bang for your buck? Here's a player to improve in 76, and it's a slight one. It's Jim Lonborg. He really made his comeback with the Brewers. Really nice 72 card. After, 72, he makes a nice comeback with the Brewers after his Red Sox years are over. Pitches on 3 days rest, the 1-2-2 whip. And he's in a 74 card with a 1-2-3 whip. But what we really like is 76. He lowers his whip a little bit and is an 18-game winner for the Phillies. Somewhat of a sideways move. He's going to get more wins because he's on a better team. But that's what you can do with Lomborg in 76. And beyond that, the only other player, and this is a nice move too, it's Tom Hutton, another Philly. Tom Hutton was always a slick fielding first baseman. He's got a really nice batting average, though, in 77. He's a 309 hitter with an 813 OPS. Also on the split are a lot of walks versus left-handed pitching, which could keep him in the lineup if you needed to, if you were stuck. You want to keep him in the lineup with that glove anyway. He's a 1 defender. So I like Hutton of all these moves. And then potentially Gross if you want that power. You'll end up with this Gross card. He's already in a good one, though, in 74. So ultimately, you can just play this season with the card he's in, and then next year bump him into that card. But I'd want to get Hutton into this one right now. He's in a lousy card. So those are some options that Las Vegas has. Next team is the Milwaukee Brewers. They have options in 3 different years. That's always good to see. Sometimes you simply do an improvement when you're stuck in the draft. Like you have a specific year that you have to choose a player from, and the outside the organization options aren't particularly good. So sometimes you're like, well, let's just improve our guy in this year because we need a card in that year. And then in this case, for these 3 guys, they'd be abandoning the 74, and you wouldn't mind who you end up with choosing from the year 74 because it's just a 1-year deal. So say you get somebody undesirable. He's only on your team for a year. If you get somebody undesirable 4 years out, you're stuck with him, or you either have to just flat out cut the player the following year, and that'll cost you a roster spot. You got to find somebody in undrafted free agency anyway. So 3 options early here. Tim Johnson improves his batting average to its high mark here. He's normally just a left-handed hitting middle infielder, which is nice. But 76, he brings his batting average to 275. Charlie Moore hits 290 here. But the best one is Robin Yount. And we really would love to get out of that 74 card. He's had it for 2 years now. And I get the idea you want to get Robin Yount in the league. Great. Awesome. But let's get out of this card. He's 18 years old. You can't be 18 years old forever. And this guy's just got to start putting on some more weight and start crushing the ball here. So he's going to be in single-digit home runs until 1980 when he's 24. That's where the power kicks in. And the MVPs and the Hall of Fame starts to come on board. Prior to that, though, you know, it might seem he's a late bloomer, but again, he's 18, folks. So these are his minor league numbers. But what's really nice, at age 21, he doubles the WAR to 3.4. It's 288. More importantly, the OPS is up to 710. So that improves it by 100 points from where it presently is. So I'm thinking, let's do that now. And maybe incrementally we go to next year, we bring up the 78 card. And then hopefully we can get into the 1980. Of course, you know, that's much later on. All his MVP, Gold Glove year, and so forth. And one other player from 77 is Lezcano. Now, Lezcano has a monster 79, but we're still 2 years away from that. We don't need to wait for that card to happen. So 79 will be the best year of his career, though he's still pretty good in the 1980s with a nice on-base percentage. But in 79, at age 25, it's got a 987 OPS, destroys lefties, wins a Gold Glove, cannon arm in right field. He's everything you could ask. But in 77, he's got 21 home runs. That's where the power is finally put on display. We have Lezcano in his 76 card with a 730 OPS. Anytime I see the OPS jump by over 100 points, I'm intrigued. So I think it's time to go from a 7 home run Lezcano card to a 21 homer Lezcano card in 77. So these are the options. Probably Yount is the primary option. You need to make him a potential starter in the All-Star game, or at least, you know, potential invite to the All-Star game, and not just a guy. So he's just a guy right now, which we don't like to see our Hall of Famers just as just guys. That's where he presently is. All right. Next up, the Twins. First thing, let's go to the year 76, because that's Bill Campbell's phenomenal year. I think he wins 17 games. So this is the card you want to jump into. He's in his 74 card right now. And the 74 card is a 3.9 WAR and a 136 WHIP. But in 76, it's a 1.23 WHIP, Cy Young and MVP votes, and 78 appearances out of the bullpen. It's really somewhat odd that the numbers are kind of mixed here. I'm getting mixed signals here. You know, the WAR it actually drops a little bit, does the WAR, which is based on a lot of other factors other than, you know, ERA and WHIP and so forth. But I guess you could say he won 17 games. It's always a scary stat. We have seen some pitchers win a lot of games, and that doesn't always work on a Strat-O-Matic card. You know, if he's just fortunate enough to his team give him the run support to get the win. We saw Ron Bryant's 73 card, 24-game winner, struggle a little bit. We've had Steve Stone's 1980 25-win card struggle a little bit. So here Campbell's is an option to go to 76 from 74. What you'll also notice here is 1977 was really kind to the Twins. Unfortunately, what wasn't kind to the Twins is that Bert Blyleven missed the year, probably with an injury. So beyond Dave Goltz, the starting pitching was terrible, and that's a real shame, because the Twin bats were electric in 77. We know about Carew hitting 388, okay? Glenn Adams hits 338. Lyman Bostock hits 335. Larry Heisel has a great year. Now we also see Eric Soderholm. This is with the White Sox, however. His career high in homers is with the White Sox, but his defense is very poor. And I don't think the Twins want to let Eric Soderholm get out of their organization quite yet, going to the White Sox. Nor do they want to let a really slick fielding Eric Soderholm turn into a liability defensively. So, but Adams hitting 338, Bostock hitting 338, Dave Goltz winning 20 games, plus Carew. Got a lot of options here. Heisel's got great years in 75, 77, and 78. I think 79 as well. Let's move on to the Mets. In the case of the Mets, we're going to start with Jerry Grody. He starts to hit pretty well on 75 and 76, but I don't have my eyes on his defense. Let's go take a look at the numbers. So Grody in 75 and 76. He's an all-star in 74, hitting 257. Then he hits 295 and 272. The OPS goes over 700 both times. We don't know what the throwing arm is. If he's whatever year Jerry Grody's got a -2 arm, we take. And then -1 arm, we take. And then 0 arm. But if he gets to be a +1 or +2 arm catcher, we really don't want that. In 77, he's a +2 arm catcher, I believe. And then from there on. But for the Mets, all the heroes of the 69 Mets, Grody, Harrelson, Seaver, we want them close to a 1969 performance as possible. So even though Grody improves the average, I really got to keep my eyeballs on that defense. Joe Torre. We got a 74 card, which is good news for the Mets, so you don't have to jump into the 76 card, which is his really good year with the New York Mets. Let's take a look at that. So at age 33 with the Cardinals, he's 282, 772, can play first and third. Okay, then in 2 years later at age 35 with the Mets, he's hitting 306, 764, also playing first and third. Doesn't really matter that much other than 20 points of batting average. Power is a little less. He's 2 years older. He's a Met. They have to figure out where and when to play him. You've already got Wayne Garrett who can play third base. You got a utility. You have Terry Harmon, presently a second baseman, but he can also be a utility third baseman. He can even play shortstop if Bud Harrelson struggles. You got first baseman, so you don't need Torrey. You could platoon at first base, but Saleta hits lefties well. They also have John Milner, who's a left-hand hitting first baseman. So Torrey's just, you know, a role player here. He doesn't have to get a lot of plate appearances, but again, he does have his best year in 76 with the Mets. And lastly, Apodaca. This is a case of a player that could go back a year into time. If you're wondering, why would we go back? We had 75 and 76 options for Apodaca when we brought him aboard, but other players were better in 75, and so Apodaca got pushed into 76, figuring that it didn't matter that much. But now, in a fresh season, you could get him into what we believe is his best card, which is 75. The ERA is $1.49. So, and a 3-1 WAR, and a 111 WHIP. Now, the WHIP numbers are about the same in 75 and 76. He's got 13 saves. He's a dedicated closer in 75. In 76, he's got some starts in there. 75 is best suited to be the stopper, the closer for this team. That's the reason we would go to that. And let's say you did that. This is kind of an intriguing thing here. So you play the next 2 seasons with that card, and then you get the 76 card anyway. So you can, the card he's currently playing with, he could remove it for 2 years, and then get back into it in the third year. And then in 77, he still has a decent card here with a 3.43 ERA. So plenty of seasons left for Bob Apodaca for the Mets. Would there be a better closing option after Tug McGraw has left? There probably was a case of Skip Lockwood, though he was taken by Seattle in the expansion draft, so Skip Lockwood's not here. They would have other pitching options, but right now Apodaca looks pretty darn solid at the back end. Again, the Mets were really good. They went to the playoffs. They won the division, actually, in the last weekend of the year. So the Mets are very good. So I don't see them any big plans to start tinkering too much with this team. Speaking of tinkering, the New York Yankees have done a lot and are going to do some more in the offseason. Hardly surprising that the tinkering happens in 76 and 77, as those are World Series years. When looking at the tinkering people, obviously you can't tinker with all of these, so it's going to be a case by case, as the draft will determine a lot of this. Lou Piniella hits 330 with a 77 card, but he crushes lefties, and he hits about 280, 290 versus righties with a ton of home runs. That's still a great card. He's in a 74 card that's comparable. Sparky Lyle. Okay, he gets the Cy Young in 77, but he's in 74. He's on a lousy team, a lousy Yankees team, and he actually pitches better. He doesn't get all the awards. 77, he gets the awards. 74 is on a lousy team, so I'm not sure we want to make these moves. Standing pat might be the way to go. Mickey Rivers' 75 card hits 285. Clearly, he's better in these 2 years, so you have your choice. It's about 313 one year, 326 the next. Defense is never going to be a strong suit. You're stuck with him as a 3+2 in center. I'm not a fan of that, but that's what the Yankees seem to like it. So either year will practically be the improvement for Rivers. Sometimes when you get a really lousy player and you get a significant jump, that's a good cause for improvement. In the case of Fred Stanley, the 1977 card's pretty good for Fred. He's a 261 hitter. This is the best card of his career because he's got a lot of walks on it. Let's go take a deep dive here and kind of see if we can find on Baseball Reference what we see on the Strat-O-Matic card. It's kind of a learning process here for a player. So here's the, he's at the Mendoza line most of his career. 200, 212, $1.84, 200, 209, $1.93. But then there's this year. 77, it's just 56 plate appearances with a 261 average and a 370 on base. Well, let's look at the splits from that year as well. A case where less is more. He didn't play so much, so his numbers looked good when he did play. His platoon splits versus righties shows him at 333, 455, and a 788 OPS. And just kind of marginal versus lefties. Of course, Strat-O-Matic doesn't make it so dramatic. They sort of curb the enthusiasm a little bit versus righties and bring it up against lefties to make him more moderate there. But that's a fun card for him to get into, and you wouldn't really mind him being your everyday shortstop at that point. They still have Gene Michael on the roster. And a nice 74 card I might want to add as a switch hitter. Dick Tidrow's best year is 76. And then 77, Nettles hits 37 home runs, wins a Gold Glove. Willie Randolph improves his batting average and walks. So this is going to be a case where the Yankees are just going to, go player by player and try and figure out what they're going to do. Are there any players from the year of 1977 that the Yankees would add to their roster who aren't presently here in lieu of doing these improvements? Let's go take a look at them. I mean, they're the world champs, for Pete's sakes, right? Let's do the quick way here. Let's do it like this. We'll just go to Fred Stanley's card and go to his team. All right. There's Nettles, Rivers, Munson, Guidry. So there you go. There's problem one. You got to get Ron Guidry on the team. That's on the short list. So that's one of your two players of 1977. It would be silly not to get Ron Guidry on the roster. You get him on the roster now, and then next year you get his 78 card where he was a 25-game winner. Reggie, Oakland's not going to let him go yet. And Figueroa, they've already made a trade for him, but they got him in a 76 card. Bucky Dent, White Sox aren't going to let him go yet. And they already have Chambliss and Tidrow. So here's the case. They have to get Guidry on this team. They need a solid lefty starter. Moreover, they might need an ace. Guidry might be your number one. And of all the other potential 77 maneuvers, that Fred Stanley move is cosmetic. That's kind of a fun thing to do, but I could take Rivers in 76. And again, I mentioned Sparky Lyle and Lou Piniella already good cards. I really like this Greg Nettles 77 card, though. He hits 37 home runs for a third baseman, and he's a 1. I think he's a 2 in 76, if I'm not mistaken. So the idea of getting a 1 third baseman with Nettles, he might be my option. But again, this is why we have all off season in the draft to figure this stuff out. And again, this is the Yankees. This is a team that's very important to our historical connection in the Carryover League. We had the early 70s Oakland Dynasty, then the Big Red Machine, then the Yankees. So we kind of want to clear the path to see if they can achieve the heights they reached in our carry-on version. Next up, and how appropriately, alphabetically, we get to the Dynasty A's. So Oakland, as you can imagine, probably has most of their stars in the proper year. And there's only a couple fluctuations here. Rusty Torres has had this 74 card for a few years. He's a switch hitting 2-2 in center. It's a $180, but he gets about 240 versus righties. In 76, it flips around to where he's hitting lefties well. So that's simply a taste. I mean, what do you think is going to be better? Do you need Torres versus right-handed pitching or versus left-handed pitching? If you need him versus lefties, you get into this card. Moreover, he's not even your property. He never played for Oakland, so you could just let this 74 card play out for 1 year and let him go on waivers next year. And then there's Catfish Hunter. 75 and 74, he's about the same, but his teams aren't. He's a Yankee in 75. That's his best Yankee year, even though he's still good in 76 when he goes to the World Series. 77, he's not very good. 78, he's good. But Catfish Hunter is not leaving Oakland either. Let's go to the next team. It's Ohio Players. Another expansion team, of which, again, we always are trying for that internal improvement. Dave Cash is arguably his best year, where I believe he's a 1 second baseman finally in 75 for the Phillies. That'd be a great get. He's already a 2 in 74, but you can get him to be a 1. George Hendrick goes from a 277 hitter to a 300 hitter in 77 with a bunch of home runs. He also had left Cleveland by this point, went to San Diego, and that's when the offense took off. He wasn't with San Diego that long either. So that would be a great card for them to get. 2 good options for the Yankees for Doc Ellis. And then DeJesus, they have him in his 75 card just because he's a 3 shortstop. He hits about a $184. He's terrible offensively. But in 77 with the Cubs, he's actually an everyday shortstop. So that's a big deal. This is a big get. Of all the improvements, you're taking a marginal backup and making him a solid starting shortstop. He's a 2 shortstop with either an A or AA stealer. So this is what I would do with their pick if there aren't 2 other players they like better in 77. DeJesus at number 1, Hendrick at number 2. And lastly tonight, we'll finish with the Phillies. We have Denny Doyle getting better in 75, but that's with Boston. I'm of the opinion the Phillies should just play out his 74 card with Philadelphia, and then we can give him the Boston next year for a chance at that 75 World Series appearance for the Red Sox. 77 is a playoff year, a 101 win year for the Phillies. And we got a bunch of guys to take a peek at here. Let's start with Mike Schmidt. Mike Schmidt, let's consider, what does the WAR say about Mike Schmidt in his career? Let's go streamline to 80 and 81. We know about the home runs in 80 and the strike year. MVP's the only time he got them. WARs of 8-9 and 7-7. However, we got him in his 74 card right here. This is what is so confounding about the WAR stat. It's the highest number of his career, but it's in his second year of his career in 1974. He's 6th on the MVP list, leads the league in homers and slugging, a 282 average. We pretty much have to stick with that card for 1 more year, I would think. And then we can go to the 77 card at 8.9. And then after that, we would bump up to the 80 card. That's sort of the progression for Schmidt. And you can always have him playing at these ridiculous Hall of Fame levels. But I really thought it was fascinating that 1974 was the highest WAR number in Mike Schmidt's career. Next up, let's take a look at Gene Garber. He's already with the Phillies by 74. As part of a trade. And they actually use these stats with a 2.06 ERA. But he walks a lot of guys. So if you want to get out of the walks, you've got some options here. 75, actually all the years have good options. But 77 is a 101 whip and a 2.5 WAR. But if you see all these, I should probably just do it like this. This makes a lot of sense. Since it's kind of a flat performance in all 3 years, and since you have other players having events in that year, and you want to improve Garber, but you don't want to not improve these other guys, then you can improve Garber in one of these 2 years. Let's look at Luzinski. Is this the best year in 77? Could very well be. He's second on the MVP list. He's got a 988 OPS. That is the highest of his career. He's got a 309 average, highest of his career. 39 homers as well. It's all the highest. Yet his WAR number is only 4.2 for left field. I guess because his defense isn't very good. Very strange to have kind of a moderate WAR number with eye-popping stats like that. We got his 75 card. 75, he leads the league in RBI. Not a good stat to use for comparison purposes. He's got a 934 OPS. Still hitting 300. Might be a 3 in left field versus maybe he's a 4 in left field in 77. So the Schmidt and Luzinski improvements are somewhat dubious here, leaving open the door that maybe you do go Garber in 77, or maybe you don't do any improvements. Maybe you stick with the cards you have. Except for the last guy, which is Steve Carlton, and this will be the final card for tonight. So Steve Carlton just had to choose from a very mediocre set of cards after getting out of his 72 card. So I'll show you how this works. He was in, of course, the 72 card. 12-1 WAR. We're not going to see that a lot. So once that card expired, the next 4 years of which he had to choose a card really weren't pretty flat here. And the ERA is over a run worse. Nothing really special going on there, right? But one more year goes by, which is 77, and now he's a Cy Young winner again. And the WAR number drops to 112. The whip number is 112, and the WAR is 59. So I like that 77 Carlton Cy Young winner. I'll take a Cy Young winner. It's worth it to me to get him into a Cy Young card again. And then we have 2 years of that card until we bump him up into his 1980 Cy Young. And then, of course, 81 and maybe 83 after that. But so of this, to me, Carlton's a lock. And then Garber being improved is a lock. I don't know which year. And then as far as Schmidt and Luzinski, it's who else is out there in 77? Let's take a look at that again. Because again, just like the Yankees, the Phillies are very important. Is there somebody on the Phillies that we need to get on the team that's not here yet? Schmidt, Carlton, Luzinski, Maddox. Okay, so McBride's still in the Cardinals, and the Cardinals are not going to give him up. Boa, Garber. We're improving Boone. Ron Reed's not leaving. He's on Colorado. He's going to stay there. Johnston's in his best year. Richie Hebner, Pirates aren't going to give him up. And McCarver. So there really isn't an obvious player here that they would add to the roster. They could add Jerry Martin as a corner outfielder if they wanted to. Nothing major there, of course. Randy Larsh is not very good. Warren Brewster's a nice reliever. They could add him to the team, but again, nothing really big. They already added Christensen a year ago. They lost Tom Underwood to Toronto. They're already going to move Wayne Twitchell to the bullpen. Jim Cott's in the White Sox. They're not going to give him up. So it looks like a pretty flat performance for what the Phillies are going to do in the offseason. Maybe just go outside the organization, look for a free agent. But that's the last team for tonight, and we've looked at 3/4 of the league for carry-on purposes. So when we get together next time, we'll do our final analysis, the last 8 teams, beginning with the Pirates. We'll start that and finish the rest of the alphabet, the 8 teams, and then we'll move on. And beyond that, we'll start looking at the keepers, guys on the waiver list, and so forth. Thanks for checking out this series. We'll see you next week.